Well, I'm Adrian Orr, and I am the CEO of the New Zealand Superannuation Fund, which is a large sovereign wealth fund to look after future pension payments in New Zealand. I've had a wonderful day and a half here in Jackson at a fantastic conference, very well thought out, very well attended, and I've learnt a lot, and a big part around it's always good to be reminded about the basics, and the basics are clarity around the purpose of your fund will be absolutely critical and important to the sustainability of that fund. So true clarity around to what purpose you exist for is absolutely necessary. How you then go and manage the fund is an important question, but quite secondary to making sure that the public as a whole understand why you exist. Yeah, I think to be crystal clear as to the purpose of a fund is always important. So if it's a long-term intergenerational wealth transfer fund, then people have to buy into that, because that's not a straightforward thing to do. There's the old saying, what's the future generation ever done for us? And people don't like to give up on that money unless they can see it is truly going to benefit both them and all future generations in a way that is sustainable and in a way that is being used to the value set of the people of Wyoming or the people of whoever owns that pool of capital. Other funds may be just a simple stabilisation fund, where you're saying we want it to help stabilise our tax revenues, and so that we can provide more certainty around future spending. You can provide the schools or the education, the hospitals, whatever that purpose is. So that is a buffer fund, a stabilisation fund for smoothing future payments. Those two are quite different. One about a long-term future intergenerational wealth transfer from the one-off resource extraction versus a stabilisation fund. You have to mix the two purposes can be very confusing. People always say we need it now for the stabilisation, whereas often you don't. You actually just need budget discipline. Whereas a long-term fund is about saying we don't need it now, we are saving, we're investing for future expenditure. It is a hard line, and it should be left as a hard line. I always think, for one stone, one bird. If you're trying to throw stones at it, if you're trying to hit two birds with the one stone, you'll miss both. And so really you want to be absolute clear as to what the purpose of a fund is, and if there is more than one purpose, then make that very clear that you've got two funds, you haven't got one fund. Because they will get blurred. Every generation's needs seem to be more important than the last generation, and hence, the political here and now will be say, spend it. But you have to put that discipline around it. And I think the important way of putting the discipline around it is to have a real separation of duties. The political aspect is to really identify the goal, the purpose to which the fund exists. And that's where the politics stop. You then need to delegate to, and very clearly and completely delegate to, experts to then manage that fund to that purpose. If you have the politics and the management mixed, then it will be forever fungible. Every new, 3-year, 4-year, 5-year election cycle, whatever it is, it'll be debatable again. And that's just wrong. That defeats the purpose of intergenerational. Yes, we are incredibly blessed with our mandate. In fact, to be honest, I wouldn't work for a fund without that mandate. And I say that because we are clearly attached to the goal that we have been given to us. The goal is to save for future pensions. But I have the operational independence to then go and meet that goal using global best practices. And to do that, I have to have the autonomy to be able to attract, motivate, retain people who are experts to be able to do this. And we have to be able to see what the rest of the world is doing. We're a little country down in the bottom of the Pacific. We have a great advantage in the sense we're not caught up in the daily bustle, but we have to be able to explain to our public how we are meeting global best practices, how we are being cost efficient and effective over the horizon that matters for us. So that independence that we have got comes with the responsibility of being very transparent about everything we do. And we're the world's most transparent sovereign wealth fund. It means that you can visit our website, for example, and you can see all of our investment strategies. You can see our responsible investment criteria, how we go about thinking around environmental, societal governance issues. You can see every asset we hold, that level of transparency. If you're really bored or struggling to sleep, you can see my expense accounts. You can see what the CEO's been doing. And, so it's as simple as that. We stand incredibly transparent to the public, and that allows us to get on with the business of doing it without being double-guessed or perceived to be mismanaging in some sense. I always think if you start from a position where everything's secret, now what will I tell people? Well, then you tell them not a lot. If you start from the position where everything is open to everyone, what should I retain back? What should I keep secret? The answer is not a lot. And so starting from a transparent position, you end up remaining very transparent. And to be honest, it gives us the license to operate. The way we manage our fund, we are a long horizon fund. And so to really exploit the advantages of being long term, it's about having a sense of what is fair value of an asset price or a country or any specific asset. A fair value doesn't change that much over years, decades. The price at which the asset is selling will change a lot. So when we go through all of the various, we always think it's more uncertain than usual. We've gone through so many shocks, so many fads, fashions, booms, busts, that people actually forget them very quickly. What we try to do is remain disciplined around the sense of fair value for an asset, and when we see prices deviate significantly, if they're well below fair value, then we are buying. We are a contrarian investor. And likewise, if they're overvalued, we'll step out of the market. And that is a discipline that sovereign wealth funds can have because of our horizon, because of our known liquidity, and if you get it right, because of the governance discipline. We're not worried about reputation or career risk. We're worried about making sure we achieve our objectives. Returns are incredibly hard, active returns, to find at the moment because the world is awash with cash. There's a lot of money chasing the same set of assets. So at the moment, we are just maintaining expectations across the public that we are still on target for our 20-plus year goal, and you will have some unders and some overs. We are insulated. The insulation is as good as the legislation. Legislation can always be changed. But our mandate is very clear. It says maximise return without undue risk, invest without prejudice to New Zealand's reputation globally. There is no direction as to where we invest or how we invest. That is completely autonomous to us. Of course, we get plenty of unsolicited free advice as to what might be a good investment, often domestically, and we do invest considerable amount domestically, but it's on our choice at the price we want to invest in. If it's not a good investment, we don't go anywhere near it. I would keep it very simple, probably two things. One is clarity around the purpose. What is the outcome the politicians and the people are after? Have that clarity. That is the big debate. That is the elephant that's always in the room. To what purpose are we doing it? And I see a lot of mixed purposes sitting in across funds, or poorly explained purposes that really resonate with the population. So get clarity on that. The second one, and this is really critical, and I'm always surprised when I come to the US, just how sceptical people are to allow that autonomy for the smart people that have been in the room today to get on and do the job. You know, what gets measured gets managed, and too often the wrong things are being measured. You know, the things that are being measured are the stationery account or the travel account or how many people have you employed. The thing that matters is the net returns, the returns after all of those costs. So measure those things and let people get on with it. Stop nickel and diming and short-termism, because that is what is destroying wealth, short-termism. Fortunately, we come from a society where for at least the last 30 years we've had real clarity of separation between outcomes determined by the parliamentary process, what are the outcomes we desire, and then the outputs which are delegated to capable teams or chief executives or groups, depending. And that is across the public sector, from health, education, the central bank, the first kind of independent inflation targeting central bank in the world. And so our model stood on the shoulders of those giants, where we have the goal is well established, but we're operationally independent, and with that comes transparency. But don't start investment strategies if you don't have the capability internally, and measure the whole cost. Too often people measure the cost of the staff. They don't measure the cost of all of the external manager fees, advice fees that are being paid to people who quite honestly do not share the same value set or the same goals that you're trying to achieve. A private equity firm, hedge funds, all the usual stories, they run to very different tunes, they run to different time cycles, they cannot exploit most of the advantages of a long-term investor. So build a team and get on with it.